and welcome to this week's edition of Twin Peaks Unwrapped. I'm your host, Bryon Kazaska.
And I'm Ben Durant. Are going to talk about the autobiography of FBI agent, special agent there, Dale Cooper, My Life, My Tapes. And we've got a guest on the show today, Andy Bentley. Hey, Andy.
Hey, guys.
I know you've been a listener of ours for a while, and it was like around the time of Halloween, place a both wonderful and strange concert, the Laura Palmer event there, and you were there, and we met in person.
That's right.
Very cool.
That's awesome.
That was pretty neat. I know it was brief because I know that you had things to do, and I was running around trying to record people, but it was cool to actually meet you in person.
Yeah, and I enjoyed that show. We just we had to split. I knew you were going to try to get some audience feedback, and I would have loved to have done it, but at least I'm here now.
So what's your background? You're clearly a Twin Peaks fan. Tell us about yourself real quick.
I am jealous of you. I mean, to watch it when it actually aired would have been something special, but I didn't get to it till college, around 2001. You know, in college, you're getting recommendations about all sorts of interesting art to check out and books and things like that. And I'm a comic book guy, and this came across my radar, and it was a ritual of me and my roommate. We would watch a couple every weekend, and we were renting them from VHS tapes from Hollywood Video.
Oh, wow.
Because I think the gold box set wasn't for another 2 years, and we had to figure out the European pilot. Maybe I got it on a CD or something, but a little dicey. But I distinctly remember getting to the last episode, and Josh, my roommate, he was a big boisterous guy, and he jumped off the couch and he said, "That's it." I didn't have much to tell him. He started rifling through VHS tapes, and I said, "Well, there's a movie, but as you guys have covered, it is a continuation and it isn't." But Ben, you're kind of similar to me. You approached it with a very much of an analytical mind, in the beginning.
Yeah.
In 2001, the only thing I had left is to just do a deep internet dive, and I read up on the old alt.Twin Peaks forums and FAQs and stuff like that. And it was right around then when I discovered there is this autobiography of Dale Cooper out there.
Yes, and that's what we're talking about today. Totally. And I'm trying to figure out when it came out, even though I picked it up on day one. On the web here, it's saying April 1st, 1991. It'd be funny to be April 1st, which is Fool's Day, which also happens to be my actual birthday.
Yeah.
So it's like, so the thing is, did I actually pick this up on my birthday?
Knowing you, Ben, yes.
I know, but you think I would remember that. I don't remember when I picked it up. You think that would have been something that I love Twin Peaks and I would actually know. But that's what I have, April 1st, 1991. And the interesting thing about this is, in February of 91, it went on hiatus, so the show was in trouble, and then I think it came back, and then not too soon after, mid-April, I think the show had gone off again for another hiatus, and it wouldn't come back till the last movie there, or 2 episodes. So it's not a good time for this book to come out.
No, when I wrote you, I said, that it's often overlooked by people as compared to the Diary of Laura Palmer, and it makes sense because that book came out in the middle of the summer and the huge mystery is going and people looking for any sort of clue. But as you said, this is not a great time to be putting this out.
Yeah, and this book was written by Scott Frost, who happens to be Mark Frost, who's co-creator of Twin Peaks. That's his brother. He also did a couple of episodes of Twin Peaks, Scott Frost, and he did the tape, the audio cassette tape of Cooper. So it's kind of cool to have somebody that's close to Twin Peaks writing this book.
It's like the relatives did the books.
Yeah. And he actually, there was an interview in Wrapped in Plastic magazine, number 73, with Scott Frost. And he basically said everybody else was busy writing scripts, so he was stuck with basically making this book. Nobody else had time to do it. So I thought that was interesting.
Essentially it's found media, very similar to Laura, in that it's written like it's media from the world, and from what we're hearing about, that's what we might be getting in October.
Yeah, with Mark Frost's new book.
Yeah.
I agree. It is kind of interesting. You're right. You're right. This found media is basically Scott Frost is collecting all of Dale Cooper's tapes, and he's got a little bit of interviews with friends.
Like there's they wrote,
yeah. It's true, isn't that? That's really fascinating. That all it seems like all the books are found media.
I hope this new book though is more of a story, but it could play in that same aspect, I guess. I mean, how would they do it? I mean, they found more tapes of Dale, or
So you were see this is the
You
thing.
know?
See, Bryon has stayed away from this stuff. There has been some leaked stuff about this.
Yeah, I did hear it's going to be following a female.
Okay, so you know some stuff.
I know some stuff.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it would be interesting if it's like the female it's like that person's like notebook or something and following.
Yeah,
It would
yeah.
be kind of cool if it was more traditional storytelling.
Right.
For the new book, I would like to see, but.
So it starts. I mean, it starts off with Cooper at a young age, like he's still a kid, and he's kind of has like reel to reel where he's recording his everyday life.
Yeah, I did like the beginning. It felt very comical about how he couldn't go outside without an extension cord. It was really cute. It was cool. I liked it a lot.
I got a vision of that little Dale running around
Yeah.
trying to pull the cord.
That's funny.
And his neighbor's like airplane crashes, but it was cool. To me, as it progressed, though, it felt like less than him talking into a mic and more of a diary. It became almost more of a handwritten diary feel to it. Until he becomes Dale Cooper. When he becomes the FBI agent we all know from the show near the end of the book, then I envision him with that recorder again.
Yeah.
But in that middle part, it almost just feels like a written diary.
We're definitely not going to go through every entry. I think we should do things that are interesting to us. Not too long after he starts recording that we discovered that his mom is having these dreams.
Let's dig into that.
What do you think about that, Andy?
Yeah, I definitely picked out very quickly on the dreams. And, the dad is funny. The dad's like this kind of left-wing nut. At some point, Dale goes, maybe I was, dropped off on their steps.
From the gypsies or something like that, I think it was. Yeah.
But you don't get much from Mom. You get that, she's sad, and you really don't get much other than the dreams that she has, which, they're creepy. That there's this unknown force that's after them. His dreams tend to then to start bleeding into hers.
Is it Bob?
Yeah, that's
do you
what you wonder if
guys
it's Bob.
think it's Bob?
Well, to kind of take a broad approach, I think that whatever these spirits are, I think they've been after Coop for a long time before he even got to Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
Right. And one of these early entries is December 27th, 3 a.m., and he's saying how Mom had another dream, and she mentions how there was thousands of birds flying in the sky. And it made me think of Cooper says, I think in the first season, about how he hates birds and stuff. And maybe that was Waldo when they were feeding Waldo.
Oh, wow.
I say, I hate birds. And an
Yeah.
owl is, I always forget owls are birds. Of course they're
Yes,
birds.
yeah.
But yeah. So I think about the owls are birds, and that could they be having dreams about owls as well? And,
Yeah, and from far away, you wouldn't know the difference, really.
right. But I like that. We should continue with that. There does seem to be a pattern here that something is after Cooper.
And in the show, you never feel that he is the driving force of the evil. You feel he's coming in. And you don't really I never thought it's all because of Cooper until Windom Earle shows up, and then you found out Windom Earle was trying to do all this stuff in the past. But when you read this book, you're like, God, this is kind of a different Cooper. It's like this evil. Has something been following him, and all these people are dying around him.
Yeah, he kind of had a bad life,
Yeah.
He meets death very early, death of his mother, death of his grandmother, death of a friend. That very creepy scene in the alleyway,
Yes.
where he just senses that there's something like right behind him.
Yeah, and there was a pencil, or there was something something he left in the alley. He said he saw like a figure in that alleyway, and he walked towards it, and it disappeared. And there was like a pencil or pencil marking, but they never referenced it again.
Right. I don't know. Was that the same time where there was like laughter?
Yes.
Yeah.
He thought I was crying or something, and it became laughter. And I was sort of like, here we have this symbolism of fire.
Yep, fire comes up.
Yeah, fire, electricity.
Fire comes up a lot.
Electricity and
comes
fire,
up a lot.
and that brought me back to Firewalk with me with the whole electricity.
Yeah. There's a guy where he went to go visit him, and all of a sudden his apartment burns down.
Yeah.
There's fire. And there's fire mentioned a few times throughout the book.
Yeah, that guy.
He was somebody who worked with it. He was
digging holes.
Yeah.
He was digging holes, but
Digging ditches, yep.
yeah, the digging ditches. And he said he barely spoke. They would never speak to each other. And then he went to go visit him, and when he was leaving, the place caught on fire, and it's just like, what is going on with Cooper? Why is
Right.
everybody dying around him?
If you die, maybe you will be the last to die. Maybe you brought the nightmare with you. And maybe the nightmare will die with you.
From Wrapped in Plastic that David Lynch contributed was he wanted Cooper to experiment with his pea and asparagus, which isn't really adding much to the book. But the asparagus line makes me think of Laura Palmer saying, "I don't like asparagus." I think it was in the pilot that he was reading the diary, and it's like, "Oh, isn't this funny that both of these people are talking about asparagus in their own ways?"
Yeah,
And I also thought about some reason I kept on connecting Laura Palmer and Cooper. Like you get to see them both at a young age. Laura seems very comfortable with her sexuality. Cooper seems frustrated and he's not getting enough or something.
There's a scene in the book where he does talk about having a dream and there being a little man and a beautiful woman, and I'm like, is that the first time he had the Laura dream? He didn't know who Laura was,
right?
And we mentioned that the Red Room doesn't have time, so this could happen where it's a premonition.
It did seem like that was the dream, but it's funny that he wouldn't have remembered it when he went to Twin Peaks. But it does seem like there's that reference of a little man and a blonde woman there.
Yeah.
I thought so too.
Yeah.
Would this be a good time to bring up his ring?
Sure, why not? Let's
Yes,
talk about the ring. Yes.
He has a dream where he's visited by his mom, but she seems different, much like dreams where people aren't exactly who they look like.
And she's died at this point.
Right, she's gone. So now she's a young woman trying to tell him something, but he's not able to hear it. She reaches out, touches his hand, and then was gone. And he wakes to find himself clutching a small gold ring in his hand. Does not know where it came from and where it was when he goes back to sleep. But then he finds out from his dad that it was his mother's ring. And when I found that, I mean, that lit off so many bells. I mean, it gave context to the ring that the giant takes and then gives back to him. And then all the ring stuff going on with Firewalk with Me.
It's like the same from, like, Laura Palmer has a dream and she wakes up and she's holding the owl ring.
Yeah.
So the timeline is, this is before they even wrote the script for Firewalk with Me. So did Bob Engels and David Lynch, when they were writing Firewalk with Me, did they use this? Because it's interesting that it's just the same. It's the same thing where they have a dream and you wake up and you're holding the ring in your hand. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, it does. It puts a whole new layer to the season premiere of the second season with Cooper giving his ring to the giant.
Albert, my ring is gone. One day here, the next day gone.
So,
I'm glad you're with us, Albert. We need the very best.
Scott has the advantage of going back to scripts, going back to the beginning of the first season and tying that ring to his past.
Gotcha. Yeah, this book would have worked really well before the season opener of season 2.
Yeah, it would have been.
think so.
I agree.
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah.
because it does seem like, I mean, I do feel like the second season we do get to hear it's more about Cooper than Laura, especially the second half of the second season where we now have Windom Earle.
Windom Earle.
Agent Earle. He's retired.
Yeah, to a nice comfy chair, complete with wrist restraints at the local laughing academy.
What happened?
Nobody knows. Your former partner flew the coop. Coop?
Yeah, I remember when we were watching it, he does mention he escaped.
It's all setting up for the season, yeah.
Yeah. And now we know that David Lynch didn't like the character of Windom Earle. And it's interesting that this book came out and Lynch Lynch did have some notes for it, but it's interesting that he allowed the Windom Earle character to. Well, I guess it's part of the story.
What's interesting with the Windom Earle, I mean, I think, Andy, you would agree that this Windom Earle in the book is a little different than the show. I mean, he's a little darker, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah, he's terrifying. He's like the Joker to Coop's Batman.
Yeah. He really is. He's menacing, and there's not really silliness and goofy. And he's not putting any costumes on.
Oh, no costumes. No.
Here's the thing. Like, I feel like if I had read this book before watching season 2, and I got I made what Windom Earle in my head, and then I saw him on screen, I saw him on screen first, so the entire time I'm thinking about that guy.
Sure.
And
Makes
it's so
sense.
hard to take that out of my imagination now. And granted, he is more of a villain in this book, and he is like menacing, but I still got that weird, kooky guy in my head, and it stinks because I wish I had a clean slate of Windom Earle. Like I went in like Windom Earle. I don't know what he looks like. I can make it up in my mind.
Yeah. So Cooper has a brother. We learn in the book.
Emmett.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think that he
Hasn't seen him in 20 years.
Well,
by
he
the end
ran
of the
away.
book.
He ran away to Canada so he wouldn't have to serve. And it's interesting that when Cooper does finally join the FBI, he thinks he's a traitor and stuff for joining the.
And he has a stepsister from the woman his dad marries briefly.
Yeah.
She leaves. He's like, "Congratulations, you're having a baby, brother or sister." And then like a month later, "You're not having a baby." She ran off with the photographer. And
I would say, going back to your Wyndham comments, I think if you watch it a second time before season 3, it'll be interesting. I think you'll see him differently.
after I finish reading the books, and I'm gonna rewatch the series. I think Windom Earle, as much I know David Lynch didn't like him and everything, and Bob is I think is a better villain, but Windom Earle is that yin and yang to Cooper, definitely.
Yeah.
So,
and we don't know, really how much David Lynch didn't like. He threw out a lot of it from the script, the episode 29 script. He threw out a lot of it, but sometimes he really did go over the top. Like in the script, he would start singing and dancing, and he'd just be really goofy. And it's like maybe less is better.
yeah, and Windom Earle, we had 2 beats, that the chess playing, but there was a whole dentist entry about how Cooper hated the dentist, and that was Cooper going to get that guy, and that was supposed to be a cut scene.
Right, that was in the original script. That really it was going to be Bob who was going to be a dentist, but there was going to be a whole dentist office where the dentist chair is considered a throne, and Windom Earle wanted to be on this throne.
Yeah,
and so you do wonder. You're right. Like, is there
book connection, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I'm glad they got rid of it because everyone seems to be afraid of the dentist.
Yeah, and I think Bob's scary enough. You don't need him to be like associated as a dentist. It's silly. There was also another reference of Uncle Al, who's a magician, and he taught Cooper how to count cards, which I think is kind of cool because we knew he counted cards in the first season there at the end there, and it was a cool little reference. And later down the road, I think he goes to a casino where he gets thrown out. Cooper gets thrown out for counting cards,
and then he takes off. He's like, "I gotta go."
Very funny.
Yeah.
One of the more effective parts of the writing is when suddenly things drop out and you don't hear from Dale. So, like an example is nothing is recorded from 70 to 73, and I thought, well, is that maybe when he learns his Tibetan methods?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally, and it's interesting you mentioned that in episode 29 script, there's dialogue. It was cut out, but that Windom Earle basically said, "I know about your missing years." I think he was gone for 3 years, and I feel like that's another connection to the book where he's like something happened during that time period. I guess it was his enlightened years and stuff. And you wonder, would they have continued in season 3? Would they have gone back to that and said, "Okay, let's discover more about Cooper and his missing years"? I don't know, but it was definitely a tie-in to the book.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one of my funniest sections is the sleep deprivation.
Yes, that was traditional Cooper. And
yes, it felt very much like the voice of Dale.
yeah, I thought about that because I was like, in the show, he really likes to get his rest, and I love the fact that he used himself as an experiment to see how long he cannot sleep. Yeah, I love that part. That feels like a very David Lynch. I could see like a David Lynch directed episode where David Cooper spends the first 20 minutes or half an hour of him just testing out his stamina about staying up all night. Like, you could just see that play out on screen. A whole half an hour of Dale staying awake.
Nice. They do. There's a lot of like little nuggets and fun things. Like, there's one point where he skips going on a bus ride and he decides he's going to walk home, and then finds like a restaurant where he has coffee for the first time.
Yes. And he does have bad luck though. All the females he meets, majority, the first crush his neighbor, she passes away. Obviously, we talked about his mom, but then the girl, Marie. And then he ends up dating a girl who seems like almost on par with him, talk about different coffees and stuff, but then come to find out she's an arsonist. She likes her
Nina
paper.
the arsonist.
Yeah, she puts herself in the psych ward and everything. I think she might be the only one who doesn't die or has an issue. Well, she has an issue anyway. Yeah, it just seems like bad luck. He gets these women and he's looking for the one, and it really gives you an idea how he's a lone wolf majority of time, but he's a chameleon in a way where he can become friends with anybody. Like he can fit in with anybody. And that in the show, that gives you a really indication that he's good by himself, but at the same time, he can fit in with the people at Twin Peaks and befriend people and camaraderie, and has a bromance and everything. And I think the book really shows him becoming his own man.
Yeah, he's searching for the man he's going to be.
Yeah.
Right. It is funny, in those missing years, his best friend Bradley says at the beginning of part 3, chapter 1, he says about how Dale's a different person. And then he quotes Dale saying, damn good. And it's like the first time you're starting to kind of hear Cooper as we know him now, that he seems like more excited about the little things in life.
It seems like we're kind of at the point where he's in college and him and his roommate go out and the roommate drops acid or something and wanders over to the military recruitment.
Yeah.
But I found it interesting that Earle himself recruited him to the FBI.
Right.
Yeah.
And that makes you wonder, was Windom Earle trying to get him all along?
He says, I've been watching. When he sees him the second time, he goes, I've been following you the whole time. And that made me feel uneasy. I was like, so Windom Earle, interesting.
Yeah.
And he's all about the chess piece,
And in that script, episode 29, there is dialogue from him basically saying he always wanted Cooper. It's something like that. Basically, because he knew he was a good man and he needed a good man to bring into the Black Lodge to basically become all powerful and stuff.
Yeah.
So I feel like there could be. I mean, there's definitely several places in the book where it seems to be that Cooper. I mean, he's been after Cooper for a while here.
Yeah.
And maybe setting him up to fail, I guess. But.
Yeah.
He's unhinged from day one.
Yeah.
Windom, we don't really get any sense of a rock solid Windom.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
And then even in the TV show, though, I mean, like we have that Major Briggs is showing him video that he was crazy back then. I don't know if that was from the 60s, but he was a whole thing where he was talking about the White Lodge.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Earle was the best and brightest among us. But when our attention turned from outer space to the wooded areas surrounding Twin Peaks, he became destructively obsessive. Earle acted in an overzealous and secretive manner, possessive of his assignments, finally violent. He was removed from the project. I found this in the project archives.
These evil sorcerers, Dugpas they're called, they cultivate evil for the sake of evil, nothing else. They express themselves in darkness for darkness without leavening motive. Now this ardent purity allows them to access a secret place where the cultivation of evil proceeds in exponential fashion, and with it, the furtherance of evil's resulting power. This place of power is tangible, and as such, it can be found, entered, and perhaps utilized in some fashion. The Dugpas have many names for it, but chief among them is the Black Lodge. You don't believe me, do you? You think I'm mad, overworked. Go away.
Yeah, so he seems like he's definitely been crazy for a while. There was another entry where he met this girl, I think, at a school, the girls' school, and he then finds out that she's married.
Andy, yep.
So we do know later on that Caroline, he's going to have an affair with Windom Earle's wife, and we now learn from the book that this is the first time that he's. I mean, he didn't know unintentionally, but he still doesn't have very good luck with the women there.
Yeah, and I don't know about you guys, but with Windom Earle's wife, that was so orchestrated by Windom Earle, and he fell in. I almost felt like he was falling in love with her because he realized no one was there for her, and he wanted to help because he's that kind of guy. But it's almost like when you're in a situation, he probably didn't plan like I'm gonna fall in love with her, but I think because Windom Earle was not around, he disappears, And Cooper is the only one there to help her. And, like, he fell in love with her on an emotional level. Like, I don't think they consummate a relationship till a little bit later on.
No, there's passages where he's very torn.
Yeah. And they do consummate at one point, because she's like, I love you, Dale Cooper. And she actually puts that on his recorder. She's the one that leaves the message. And I think, he was torn about it. And it sucks because Windom Earle is so, like, horrible that he was pushing this to happen.
Her name was Carolyn. She and I fell in love. One night, I failed in my vigilance. Attack was made. I wasn't ready. I was wounded and I lost consciousness. When I came to, she was in my arms. She was dead. She'd been stabbed.
The wounds on the vagrant.
Identical. The killer was never found. My wound healed. Windom Earle went mad. Institutionalized until his recent escape.
So why is he after you?
Harry, Caroline was Windom Earle's wife.
So he blames you for her death.
It's much worse than that. I think he killed her. And I think he committed the crime that she originally witnessed.
If he's been following Cooper, he knows how easily he could fall in love with someone, and like, he's such a nice guy.
That seems to be his downfall. And he even said there was a whole training in the academy where he was going to partner up with a girl, and she in the training she got killed because he was so infatuated with her that But it seems that again and again it seems like when he cares too much about a woman, that's going to be his downfall.
And Windom Earle, if he knew about his training, he knew that this could be his downfall.
Right.
That's interesting.
There's a passage early on where he feels guilt that he didn't love Marie enough and she died. And I was like, this is it. This is where it starts.
Yeah.
Right. That's true. Yeah. And it seems like he wrestles a lot with evil. And there's an entry in November 23rd, 5 p.m. He says, does the evil exist in a tangible form as, say, a germ? Does it float as a feather would on currents of air that bring life to the world, moving in and out of our lives? But he wrestles with this whole idea of evil, and it's fascinating because, it seems like evil in the end is going to consume him when we get to the end of Twin Peaks. But he wrestles with that, and I'm fascinated by it.
Yeah, I could jump from person to person because I feel like someone.
But by him saying that, it's like Bob possessing people. I mean, it feels to me like an entry of possession.
Yeah, I feel like in the show we're given a face, Bob. But I think if this was Twin Peaks was just a book, I think evil wouldn't have a face like Bob, but it would just be something, And I think in the TV world, we're given a person to look at that's evil. But yeah, I think Bob is anything evil, really. It represents anything to be evil. They're just giving it a name, but...
Yeah. And Cooper has an internship, psychology, and he meets insane people, and there's one girl who she's like possessed by the devil. And
And he thinks she's fine. And of course, he meets her family, and I'm like...
Is that the same one? I don't know if
it's the same one. And she's I think so. She sets the house on fire.
No, that's another one.
No, that's another one?
Maybe all the women he meets are crazy.
Soon after he's recruited, he just says, I've been assigned a secretary.
I gave Bryon my original copy of this book, which, I had for 25 years. So Bryon and I were talking.
Dog-eared, one of the pages.
Yes.
And the humorous part to me is it's something we've always discussed. Andy, I'm sure you listen to our show. You know my feelings on Diane, if Diane's real or not. Right. And my theory has always been, I mean, I entertain all theories, but the one I really enjoy and I hope to be true is Diane might not be real, and it's just something that allows him to not feel alone. And I wrestled with the theory, is Diane real or not? And, with Fire Walk with Me, kind of made it feel like maybe Diane is real.
Well, especially with the missing pieces.
Yes,
I mean,
with the
maybe.
missing pieces, that Diane is a real person. So I've come to terms that Diane is real, and now reading the book, I've come to more terms that Diane was a real person.
But there's an entry that 25 years ago that I dog tagged. Or
Yeah.
something.
I think I know what you're talking about.
So on January 10th at 11 p.m., Diane, I hope that you will not mind that I address these tapes to you, even when it is clear that I'm talking to myself. The knowledge that someone of your insight is standing behind me is comforting. And you dog-eared that one page. And I was just like... So both theories could stand true.
Right.
That Diane is his secretary, that these tapes, like, it's just him taking notes, and that he has a record without writing it down, without spending all his time writing stuff.
Yeah.
But Diane could hear some of these, but he just, it makes him feel comfortable, not alone in the world. Because you do get a weird feeling that he is alone, and he's always looking for that one. And Diane just represents something that keeps him, sane. Maybe
It's a comforting mechanism.
It's a comforting, yeah.
They have dinner as friends at some point.
Yes, so we're bringing that up. So
Yes.
25 years ago, I felt this way. I still feel this way. I feel like there's maybe some sexual language in that eating duck.
I didn't get it until you pointed it out. So, like, there is a reference to where he gets, like, what's the sex book there? What's it called?
Kama Sutra?
Kama Sutra, from the woman, I believe, has the husband, and they spend the entire day in a hotel, and they order Chinese food. And then Cooper and Diane go on a date, and they have Chinese food. And I didn't get the impression...
It's not just Chinese food. It's like, without a doubt, the most delicious skin I've ever eaten. Firm and all the same time delicate. And the meat, it takes on a flavor when I slide it into the mouth. Well, I couldn't get enough of it. I mean, maybe she really is like Cooper, and she really just enjoys life. But it's like to spend that much time on talking about this duck.
Maybe it wasn't a good date, and that's all the thing she could focus on. But maybe you're right. Maybe that was an innuendo, but it leaves it up to the imagination, right?
Yeah.
Like you take it one way, I took it that. But maybe there was something there, because he later does say we take different paths in life. Mm-hmm. So he realizes they couldn't be together.
Maybe. And it's interesting. Before that, Cooper's basically asking Diane out. He's like, I know we shouldn't mix things private and public, but would you mind having dinner with me? And it's like, why does he have to say that? If it was just a regular secretary, business relationship, why would he even have to say, let's have dinner? Why would he have to even question that?
What do you think, Andy? Do you think Diane is real and in the context of, like, the whole world of Twin Peaks? I
tend to lean toward that, yes, she does exist, but I do like your idea that she may not be listening to all this. And
yeah.
I have Peaks friends that also, when they saw the missing pieces, they really didn't like, they thought that scene was very much off where he's doing the calisthenics.
I agree.
And speaking to her. They don't like, they're like, that doesn't feel Cooperish. So again, there's him being very, very kind of off when he interacts with her.
I agree. I think the same way. Yeah.
It was like a cartoon moment. He's very cartoonish.
Yeah.
He's not. Yeah, he's squatting or he's going up. He just seems off there. I agree. I mean, I think I remember reading the script first. I mean, like, I waited over 20 years to see those deleted scenes.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing the scripts like, oh, we actually finally get to see what Diane looks like. And then to actually see that and realize they're just showing Cooper in the doorway. But it wasn't. I didn't really like it.
Yeah.
So what else I wanted to mention was interesting is, like, what I liked about the Laura Palmer diary was you felt like the town was all there. Like, there were a lot of different characters that you remember from the TV series. It was like 80 pages or so before Windom Earle showed up. So you had like 80 pages of just Cooper as a kid, and you didn't get any other flavor of Twin Peaks. So I think, to me, it kind of too long to get to Windom Earle and then to Diane, and then there was a brief mention of Albert and why is he so angry and stuff. But I kind of, it's hard because Cooper is an outsider, but somehow I wanted more of Twin Peaks.
Do you think they started the book too early in his life?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would have actually loved to have more time with maybe investigations with Windom Earle. Like, let's see, like, kind of what you're saying, Andy, we never really got to see a sane Windom Earle. It would be interesting if we could have maybe seen more of a good relationship between them.
No, the two of them, they investigate a bank robbery, but then that's when Dale takes his first life. So he gets put on desk duty. So again, they're separated.
That's true.
That's when you get the first hint of Wyndham's mind, because Caroline says something about, I hope that you taking a life doesn't affect you the way it did Windom.
Yeah. What do you guys think? So Windom Earle disappears, and there's all those murders. Where does Windom Earle? We do know he did try to go there. In the show, they mentioned it.
Like, are we talking about the Black Lodge?
Yeah, the Black Lodge. So was Windom Earle in the Black Lodge, and were those murders? Those murders were Windom Earle.
I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
And they were high-level criminals, and they were murder gangland style.
Yeah.
Like grisly.
And their hands were cut off.
Right, and they weren't connected though. It would be like they were different. They weren't even connected people. Like
it made no sense, right? It was like the book would have been great if they did focus where he was like maybe out of high school, in college, and we got into that stuff, because I felt the ending was just like, here's some good cases. I'm thirsty for one good case. Bam, bam, it's over. It would have been great if they did more focus on the bigger cases. It did go by too quick near the end. They rushed it. It almost felt like when it got good, it was over.
Right. And you mentioned these murders. It's interesting that the wrists were tied behind their back, and it makes me think of sometimes my arms bend back. And it was interesting that
Oh, and what do you guys think about the dream he had about the guy with no leg?
Yeah,
would that be
pretty bizarre? And there was also a blue man or something.
No. Okay, so Andy, I don't know if you know this. I just learned this myself from David Bushman when we did our panel. Maybe Ben, you've told me, but maybe I forgot about how there was this whole thing when David Lynch would put something blue in Twin Peaks, it meant something. It wasn't just put there nilly-willy. Right. It meant something.
It's significant. Blue key from Mulholland Drive.
Now, this book, we get a blue car that they're looking for that the killer has near the end of the book, and they find the wrong blue car, and it was not the person, but then the car was blue, and it really was the killer, the second car. I forget the type of car. And there was a couple other times where blue was mentioned, and I took note of that. I was like, so that's interesting. They kind of kept with that color scheme in the book, like
I
think it's a good connection.
Yeah, and David Bushman mentioned that, and I was like, so when I read the book, because I finished it today, but I noticed, I was like, wow, that's interesting, because maybe that's good continuity, I guess,
Totally.
Yeah.
Cooper goes away and runs into an old man. And he says,
we got to talk about the old man, yeah.
There is death in your face. Oh. There's death in your face. I can teach you nothing. And this old man, wasn't this old man teaching Windom Earle stuff?
How to play chess, supposedly. And
yes.
This is where Windom Earle went on his honeymoon with his wife. And Cooper goes there, and he sees him downstairs playing chess, and he goes, can you teach me? And the guy's like, no. They found out 24 hours later he hung himself, and he left a note. What do you guys think? Do you think that note was for Cooper?
I tend to think so. Yeah, Windom has returned and then basically recommends him heading out to this La Casa de Corazon.
Yep.
The House of the Heart.
Interesting.
And yeah, I think it's one of the most affecting passages in the book, when he just finds that guy, forgive me, I was a stupid old man, may God stop him. And it's just like, whoa, what is going on here? I
think Cooper's worried that he's talking about him, but could he be talking about Windom Earle? That like I shared stuff with Windom Earle, and I've let him loose, and now he
maybe he could see Windom Earle in him, or is there something, a connection there, right? Yeah, like it's hard for me to believe that Dale Cooper would, like this person would look at Dale Cooper and say, "There's evil." I just have a hard time.
So, I do have a note here. It's a long shot. Okay. What if, akin to Agent Jeffries, time traveling, who points to him and says, do you know who that is?
Yes.
So the implication that perhaps he knows Cooper's fate. Could this wise old man also be connected to these spirits? And does he know his ultimate fate as well?
I like that. They could be the doppelganger. It could be his double, or the evil Cooper he sees him as.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
And we're mentioning the whole man hanging from a rope. It makes me think of Harold Smith from Twin Peaks. That Harold Smith died from hanging. So I still sometimes wonder if Harold Smith had more to do with the spirit world, than we are led to believe. Like you don't really know. Like all we know is that his arm kind of shook a little bit and he kind of couldn't go outside. But I kind of always wondered if there was something more to him than that.
Well, Cooper, we saw on the show Cooper's hand would shake.
Right.
And then in the book there was something about the hand shaking. And I forgot about the Harold Smith's hand
Right.
shaking.
And in Fire Walk with Me, there's Teresa Banks' hand went numb days before her death.
Yeah, interesting. I totally forgot Harold Smith had that same thing.
He does hypnotize Windom to try and find where he was while he was gone. And two passages, what did you see? He says, Caroline saw it. What did she see? Love and evil. So that's kind of a play on our love and fear.
Yeah.
And can you take me to where they took you? No, why not? You can't get there from here. So the idea that there's like the sycamore tree type of hot spots in the world where you can access this.
That's interesting. And I don't know if you guys ever heard of this. In real life, there's these people who think there are hot spots that they can lead you to different dimensions. I'm always wondered if Twin Peaks took from that. I've heard people talk about in other podcasts and like like Ghost Hunters and stuff like that, where there's these hot spots that people believe can take you to a different dimension. It's fascinating that Twin Peaks sort of hits upon that same idea.
Yeah. So I think Windom says love and evil, which is in the TV show we're talking about fear and love.
Do you think Windom Earle
Fear and
was?
love, yeah.
Do you think
Love and
Windom Earle was really under? Or do you think he was just messing with Cooper? A part of me was like, he's so evil that I could feel like he was pretending and he's just giving Cooper more, just giving Cooper what he wants. I don't know.
Yeah.
Part of me feels like, was Windom Earle really under or not?
Right.
I don't know.
Interesting.
So Caroline gets kidnapped, and when she returns, her blood tests show a high level of heroin and a small amount of another drug that they have not been able to identify.
This is where I get, do you guys, what's your thought? Like, why would Windom Earle take his wife and put her into a prostitution ring in New York?
She's a pawn.
Yeah.
He's playing chess still.
Yeah.
And that drug, I believe that drug is haloperidol, which we've seen Mike, the one-armed man, uses.
This is Mike's drug, yeah.
Yeah, this is Mike's drug. Then it's also used on Ronette in the hospital. It's also used on Major Briggs. That's what Windom Earle is using to get information from her.
him?
So it's something. It's definitely a drug that Windom Earle has used before, and I could see him using it on Caroline.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It was a pawn. She is the pawn to get Cooper. I mean, yeah. But it's interesting. He's using his own wife. What a jerk. I mean,
he had no problems killing people on the series.
Yeah.
He had no problems.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Joy, that his dad meets Gordon Cole.
Yeah, that's good.
Just a quick aside here.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
kind of Gordon Cole is kind of like a father figure to Cooper, I feel, even on the show. It's
Right.
It's a nice nod. Yeah, definitely. And so when Caroline comes back, she doesn't seem close with Windom Earle. I think she knows that Windom Earle is the person that's doing this, but she's in fear, or she's definitely not comfortable around Windom Earle anymore.
So it very much reminds me a lot of Laura and Leland. Laura is very uncomfortable around her dad, and he will lash out, and she really goes inward. And then remember when Bob Leland is on top of her, and he's like, I thought you knew all along.
Right.
But then you have a scenario where Windom Earle is doing this to his wife. She knows it's her husband, but she's in such shock that it's like she's suppressing that memory.
Right.
And Cooper is the only one that chip away and let her. She's like scared. Like if I tell you it was my husband, Windom Earle, I'm gonna die.
Hey, great. And this is the quote for it. This entry, April 16th, 2 a.m. She said she saw the face of the man, that he was still coming after her, and that she knew she was going to die. And this was her, I think, waking up from a dream. But I think of the whole part of she saw the face of the man, and in the TV show, it's like, of the man that killed me.
Face of the man that killed me.
Yeah, but it's interesting that it's very close to what we saw in the TV show. It's like,
I saw the face. Someone who killed me.
Annie. The face of the man who killed you.
He was my husband.
If this was a TV show version, would she have been seeing Bob?
No, she sees. I think she sees Windom Earle.
Really? We don't think that Bob, the evil, has.
What do you think, Andy?
Well, I just wanted to bring up, Ben, you told me to pay attention to the last episode script.
Yes.
And in there, Annie's doing something very similar. She's saying, I had the most terrible dream. I saw the face of the man who killed me.
Oh, that's what I mean. Right. It wasn't Caroline. You're right.
I know who it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, the same man kidnapped me, the same man who gave me the drug. It was Windom Dale. It was him all along. And he's so confused because it looks like Annie, but then it flashes, back.
And I caught you, and you mentioned the word drug?
In the script here, it says, I know the man who kidnapped me, the man who gave me the drug, it was Windom Dale. It was him all along.
Wow. That's really cool. I mean, that's really kind of definitely goes back to this book. I mean, it's clear. And a lot of that script in episode 29 there, the script had a lot more dialogue related to this case of Caroline getting killed. And like you had a point where Windom Earle is sitting down confessing to the police. You had all these different scenes, and they were just basically all scrapped for a different version of the Red Room that we have today.
Interesting.
But that's a really good quote.
See, it does tie. It does tie it all well.
But it's interesting. But you think about episode 29, like they had this book, they had this foundation, they knew where they were going, and then you have David Lynch saying, "I don't want to do any of that. Forget it. Forget all this work of the book, and forget all this stuff. I'm going my own direction." And another thing in the script is there's talk about his father. I mean, like he's like in this warped version of the Great Northern guy at the hotel, and he turns into his father. And there's this conversation with Cooper and his dad. And I always thought in the script that, maybe his dad had died. But in this book, his father is still alive. He's still alive by the end of the book. But it's interesting that they were still going to play with that in the script version, that they wanted to have some kind of relationship between Cooper and his father.
That's interesting. Yeah, I actually thought his dad might die by the end of the book.
Me too. Yeah. Oh, and so there's another quote here that I thought was interesting. In April 20th, 9 p.m., before heading back to town, Windom told me that he believes evil exists as an independent life force, that it will eventually conquer good because of guile.
So there you go. That's the other evil force that can just travel. And...
Windom Earle is supposed to be like, almost like a mentor to him, but he's saying to him, I think evil's going to win.
Yeah, he does say something similar to that later on, where he's like, one person standing, it doesn't matter if he's good or bad. It was something to that effect, saying, it doesn't matter if you get the bad guy or not, or what side you're on, as long as you're the last one standing.
And Cooper goes and says in another entry, love is stronger than evil. So he thinks Windom is wrong on this point. He does think, and that still plays back with the love and fear. I feel like there's got to be a good essay about fear and love, and it seems like they're talking about this in the book, that like, does love or evil or good or bad conquer? And with true love, supposedly that will conquer evil.
It will conquer all.
But
as the saying goes.
As the saying goes.
Love will conquer all.
In the episode 29 script where Earl says, I came in the door, there was blood on the kitchen floor, I followed it into the living room, that's where they were lying. I thought they were both dead. I knew that because I stabbed them myself.
Nice. And we don't get that in the book. Wow. I mean, we get hints of it, and we learn that Cooper does think that, but we don't get... Here we get to hear Windom Earle's take on this. An alternate version of Twin Peaks, we would have heard Windom Earle confessing to stabbing them.
Yeah, because in the book, they do say that she wasn't killed. She was killed in the bed and dragged over and put on Cooper's lap.
Yeah, and it's not really solved. He just kind of says, here's what I think happened, and Gordon Cole tends to agree with them.
Right. Yeah, and there was no arrests at all. Like, they didn't...
Right.
Like, that's weird. That, like, I know he's crazy...
Well, I think what happened is that Cooper was badly injured, so he was out. He wasn't really working the case, and they couldn't find any evidence. And Windom Earle is a genius, and they weren't able to find anything on him. And he never confessed. He only had conversations with Cooper, so nobody else ever discovered that it could be Windom Earle.
Well, they think was there tape. He played a tape for Cole, and that's how. That puts him in the psych ward, and he
he's
said,
already in the psych ward.
And he said he can never. And Cole agrees that he can never leave. That's it. But they didn't convict him or anything. They just put him in the psych ward and said, "Well, you're there," but there was no trial or anything saying convicting him of these crimes. And it's interesting. And he escapes twice. Really, he escapes once, and then he escapes again on the show. I don't know if that doesn't.
So he tried to escape, and he wasn't actually able to escape. So you see, he's trying to get out, but he wasn't able to.
And he gets to write these crazy letters to Cooper, which is amazing that they're allowing him to write to outside.
Well, Andy's right. This is like Batman and the Joker. I
Yeah,
mean, clearly,
yeah.
like this is the Joker villain where he's taunting Batman from prison
From prison,
from the asylum. But there's another. So Cooper is kind of a mess, and there's an entry where it goes into Cooper saying, "I don't know who I am. We search and search, and always end up looking into the same mirror at the same reflection, hoping that we find something different."
Oh, now that one.
That's
Holy
deep.
moly.
It's deep because, of course, he's talking about trying to hope to be a better person, but we know by looking in the mirror, you could see Bob. I mean, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So after that, he sets out to San Francisco.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does he travel with his dad? And that's.
Yeah, they take a trip together, and they I think his dad is marrying some random lady. He goes gambling, and she's a weird name, like a hippie name. I can't remember what it was. It's like Starburst.
Skimpy outfit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might have been it. Yeah.
Dennis is in this.
Yes.
Or we later learn as Denise in the series. The DEA that Cooper actually goes and works with them. And I think this is fascinating. They go on a job where Dennis gets kidnapped and Cooper then saves him. And to me, that's I like that in a way because it gives you a backstory that, hey, Dennis was saved by Cooper, and now when he comes to town in Twin Peaks, he's going to make sure he takes care of his buddy Cooper and stuff. So I thought that was kind of a nice touch.
Nice.
Yeah.
In between, there's that whole case about the gay men being murdered, which kind of comes out of left field, but has a very funny moment when Dale is going undercover, dressed in leather, and he talks about how he enjoys the feel of the leather. That again just gave me another visual. Like I could just see this happening in an episode. Dressed up with a.
And he's getting hit on. And he's like, how come this wasn't easy when I was in high school? Like, all these guys are hitting on him. He's like, how come it wasn't this easy before? Because you always struck out with the ladies. Even though every time he met a lady, he would be intimate with them pretty quickly. So he wasn't like, he just had far in between the ladies, I guess.
Right. He just had bad luck with them.
Yeah.
They died or they ran away or something. But why don't we go into the Teresa Banks mystery?
Yes, because this kind of gives the Firewalk with Me movie, right? I mean, Deer Meadow. They mentioned Deer Meadow. They mentioned Cable.
Yep, Sheriff Cable. So, the chief.
The chief. In Firewalk with Me, we get two other people that go into Deer Meadow.
Yep. Chet Desmond and Sam Stanley.
Yeah.
It's a different version of what we saw in Firewalk with Me. What do you think of this, Andy?
Well, it seems to be brought about by Kyle's hesitation to join the Firewalk with Me cast.
Right.
That's it's always what I've heard. That
right.
All right, well, we've got Kyle for this many days, and we need to figure out, all right, the most important days or scenes that we need, that have to go to Kyle. So I think then Engels and Lynch, they come up with the Chris Isaac and Keith Sutherland characters.
Right. But it's interesting. Clearly, Bob Engels and David Lynch, when they were writing the script for Firewalk with Me, used this book enough to say, hey, we're going to use Deer Meadows. We're going to use Cable.
Right.
Even though Cable is helping him with the autopsy, he's hanging out with him, where it's a different version of Cable. They also go to a different cafe, diner where Teresa Banks worked. She didn't work at Haps in the book. So I think there's definitely some changes, but clearly they were at least inspired by this book enough to use some of the material for Firewalk with Me.
Yeah. And it does give you, it does, as much as I know people don't, I don't know, Andy, if you listened or read about John Thorne's dream theory. The dream theory, when I read this, it does give more validation to John Thorne's theory. I do, the more and more I think about it, I do like it. That theory, this book, gives it a little bit more weight, I think, because he does talk about dreams, and he does have dreams. His mom has dreams. He talks about, I can't remember the passage, but it was something where, you dream about something where you're different, or his mom looks different, right? So in Firewalk with Me, this happened a certain way, but in his dream, Firewalk with Me, if that whole beginning part was a dream, John Thorne's theory was he would make it where he looked different. He was different because it wasn't working out the way it happened. And maybe he would, because Dale Cooper, we can tell he's passionate about stuff that maybe in his own imagination he had to change it for a different outcome.
And it's not like, I mean, we know that David Lynch does this in the future. We know that he did it in Lost Highway. We did it in Mulholland Drive. He does take these characters and turn them into other people. And so it's
plausible.
It's possible.
Yeah.
But yeah. Getting back to the case, when he ends with...
It's a cold case. I mean...
It's a cold case.
Yeah.
And he says, Diane, as Gordon thought, everything about this has the feel of a serial killing. The question is this the beginning or of something or the end? And it made me think of Fire Walk with Me, where he's saying, when or where will he kill again? So I mean, it's similar dialogue to me where Dale Cooper when Dale Cooper goes to investigate the Teresa Banks case, he couldn't figure out anything either, but he knows that the killer will strike again.
So him dwelling on this in his dreams could create a Chet Desmond character that would be his alter ego.
If you believe Thorne's dream theory.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, to me, it gave it weight a little bit. I'm like, I do entertain that theory a lot for some reason. I really enjoy it. I need to watch the movie again because I want to have my own theory, but I do enjoy that dream theory.
Yeah.
He also speaks to Diane, and earlier in our discussion we talked about, this evil, is palpable evil. Is it all connected? And he says to her that there's something at work here that I feel like I've come into contact before. Call it an evil, a sensation of old, and a very dangerous that I've come into contact with 3 times before. Once in a small mountain village where I was traveling. I have to assume that's the 70 to 73 gap.
Yeah.
Once in college, I think that's the alleyway. And then once Caroline was killed. Bureau training does not cover or even acknowledge the existence of forces outside the physical world. Nothing in Western thinking does, but it is there. Whether it travels in the shadow of the night or slips in a gust of wind or carried around in the soul like a serpent, waiting for its moment to strike. I know it is real because I have watched a good friend destroyed by it.
Awesome. That's really cool. Yep. I mean, I like that. That's awesome. I mean, you definitely see like Cooper is connected to the spiritual world, and you definitely see that in the TV series that he is connected to the spiritual world. So that's a great quote. And I feel like we're getting close to the end of this book here.
Yeah, the ending is nice. I like the last 2 entries. He's like, "What is my purpose? If there's all this out there and I can't seem to prevent it, I can only seem to clamp it down a little bit. Why was I put here?" And Ben, you've talked about the ending of Fire Walk with Me, and maybe that is his purpose.
And you have Windom Earle writing to him again and basically saying, I will make the first move very soon. So it's kind of cool to be like, this is getting us ready for, I mean, we're already in the second season, but Windom Earle is going to come to the Twin Peaks and they're going to have their showdown. Even though you don't really get the showdown. I mean, that's interesting too because, I mean, I think the scripts, both in episode 28, where originally Cooper and Windom Earle were going to be on the catwalk together and they were going to have some dialogue back and forth. And then you were going to have more dialogue in the last episode, and that was all cut. So I always think Cooper and Windom never did get their real showdown between the two of them.
Yeah. It almost goes full circle with so Laura Palmer did show up in this book. We don't, not by name, but in a dream. And it's almost like she has, for some reason, Cooper was a beacon of hope for her because ultimately he does save her with the Fire Walk with Me ending.
Yeah.
So that's interesting that the one woman he's never met, he saved in the afterlife somehow, where all these other women he had problems with.
Yes.
Either they died or something happened. But that's kind of interesting. It's kind of like it gives Dale Cooper a sweet ending in the movie.
Yep.
Not the show. The show is kind of like the depressing ending because Cooper it shows that he's had a long history with this evil popping its head up.
Evil wins in the end, it seems like.
In season 3, I firmly believe season 3 is going to be about how does Cooper defeat this evil.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
let's hope.
I hope. And I almost feel, will it be Laura Palmer that saves him in the end? Or at some point.
That's my hope. My wife, she struggled with her first watch through Fire Walk with Me. So it's just a lot. And when you guys hit Fire Walk with Me Part 1, we sat down and we watched the Joel Bacco video essay series, and
series.
she said, and it changed her mind. She said, I'm going to give this another chance when we prep for season 3. And it was that point I said, I think it's my hope that he eased her into this world, and now in the 3rd season she's going to save him.
That would be awesome.
That's what I like too. Yeah.
And in the script of episode 29, that whole dentist scene, and Bob is the dentist, and he has a syringe, and he it seems like the syringe is the way he's going to capture the soul of Cooper. But just as he's about to do that, Laura Palmer shows up and grabs his arm, and it seems like they're going to have a battle between Bob and Laura. And then, but then there's a flash of light, and Cooper and Annie are outside in the sycamore trees and stuff. But it was interesting that they, in the script at least, they wanted Laura to kind of take back control and maybe be more of a hero-like figure. And I really hope that's what happens in the new series.
I want to believe, in Lynch fashion, everything goes full circle in some one way or another. If it takes forever to get there, it will get there. Yeah. And I hope, Andy, I agree with you. I mean, I really want to see Laura save Cooper's life somehow. And we know she's in the series. We don't know Laura Palmer is, but we know she is in the series, right?
Right.
Cheryl Lee's in the series. And, could she play another random family member that looks just like her?
She could be a redhead. I mean, there was talk.
The redhead, the rumored.
Yeah, the rumored season 3 redhead back 25 years ago. I mean, it could have just been a joke that she was going to come back as a redhead.
But we all know she's in the Black Lodge.
Yeah.
And the Black Lodge is going to come back.
And she says, I'll see you again in 25 years. So it's been 25 years.
And maybe... Okay, so here's just a crack into that. I know we're going to wrap things up. But the crack into that, was she predicting that's Cooper being old. Cooper's old. We don't ever see that again where Cooper has the prosthetics to look old. So
this is his dream.
So is she saying, she knows that she's been in the lodge forever, so she's saying, I'm going to save you in 25 years.
Who knows? She's just meanwhile. Who knows what's going to happen?
I don't know.
I
like that theory that she's going to help him.
So the book ends with him heading into Twin Peaks. He says, I'm heading for a little town called Twin Peaks. That's pretty much how it ends, which makes sense.
Yeah.
The question now is this book canon? And that is the question. What do you guys think about, should this book really be thought of as part of Twin Peaks series and film?
Oh, you go first, Andy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I like to think that it does because of the way it informs Windom's character and the ring significance, and because I feel Scott nails, the voice of Dale. Yeah. It feels, legitimate. Now, if you're going completely analytical, you could say, well, the Teresa Banks murder doesn't make any sense. And I just think that was logistics. And I think if you want to apply a little Lynchian logic to it, just, think of it as an alternate, a dream within a dream.
Fair enough.
And what do you think, Bryon?
It's so hard. David Bushman was talking to us about it. He feels like it's not. My opinion is, I could see it both ways. I could see it like you just take it as is. And it does. They have the flexibility to go into the show and tie into things, but the problem was with Lynch, sometimes those things are going to change because Lynch might not feel the same way for the show. So the person who wrote the book, like, God damn it. I had it all match up, but now you change things. But that's what you have to deal with. So, I kind of feel it is kind of a canon. It is canon, but I guess David Bush was mentioning the dates are all off.
There might be something. Well, one thing that's definitely off is that, the murder of Caroline. I think in the series it's only been maybe a few years, 4 years maybe, and I think it's close to 10 years in the book. So there's definitely
it's like 81.
Yeah, something. Yeah.
Wow.
So maybe 7-8 years, but it's definitely so some of the dates don't match. I still question whether all the dates match in the Laura Palmer diary, and some people are going to say yes, they all match, but I don't know. But if I think this is canon. I think, first of all, it came out of Lynch Frost Productions.
Yeah.
They sanctioned it.
Right.
The brother of Mark Frost, Scott Frost, wrote this, and so they had the approval. You have David Lynch. He's only talking about asparagus. Let's do the asparagus. But he still is contributing some to it. Yeah. So I feel like everybody's at least supporting, and I've never heard otherwise. Lynch and Frost have never come out and say don't consider this book canon. I mean, they could be like George. Lucas Arts, or not Lucas. Lucas.
George Lucas?
Well, yeah, George Lucas or even the company as is, and they can come back and say, the comic books no longer is canon. And they could do that if they want to, but as of right now, I consider it to be canon.
And I think in the book world of these stories, things are going to change. For all we know, the next book that comes out after season 3 airs, things could be mismatched.
Sure.
I mean, the book is written probably during the production of the show. So there is they can connect things and make it solid, where these books came out during production,
right,
where things were constantly being changed and Lynch coming in changing things.
Yep.
So yeah, I think you're right. But I mean, it is canon, but you have to go with the fact that Lynch changed things that would have changed the book, and the dates were somewhat off, but.
And I still think it seems clear to us, I think, that Bob Engels and David Lynch, when they were writing Fire Walk with Me, took material from that. They didn't have to go with Deer Meadows. They didn't have to.
That's true.
There was stuff they didn't have to do if they wanted to change it, but they decided to go into this book and say, yes, that's where the Teresa Banks case takes place.
You're absolutely right. Yeah. I keep forgetting the order how things came out, but yeah. So Fire Walk with Me came out after this book.
Right. So this book was taking place while second season was happening. In April, I mean, the show went off the air in June. A year later, Fire Walk with Me came out. So yeah.
Cool.
And I have to say, I was blown away by that clip you guys played at the end of an episode back where Mark Frost explains how long this has been developing.
Yeah, I think.
And how many years where they didn't utter anything to a soul. I couldn't believe that.
I know, because I'm trying to remember if it's been 3 years or 3 or 4 years now, right? I mean, I think it was Mark Frost did a little bit of a reading from the new book, but yeah, it seems like it's been several years, and like good for them. They actually, wrote scripts. They were able to keep it to themselves, even though there was always little hints that we'd have Ray Wise, who played Leland. He would always say like, "Yeah, it's gonna come back," and I don't know if he was just wishful thinking or what, but you're right. It's amazing they were able to hold the secret for so long.
But those guys in mysteries are the best. I think is there anybody out there that could hold on to a mystery, it's those guys.
That's true.
So,
well, I think we got to wrap it up. But Andy, thank you so much for coming on the show. Do you want to share with people if people want to know how they can get a hold of you? You're on social media and.
Oh, thank you both. I really enjoyed it. I'm on Twitter at abuddha, ABUDDAH, and I have a pop culture collectible toy cast called the Repack Podcast, if anyone wants to check that out.
Nice.
And this was a pleasure. I hope maybe I can join you for the next book.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Yeah, for the next big book coming out.
Who knows? Yeah, we can see what happens. Thank you, Andy.
Guys.
You can check us out at Twin Peaks Unwrapped on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're getting a lot more likes on Facebook. And you can give us an email at twinpeaksunwrapped@gmail.com.
And we're on every Wednesday. We've got a new episode, and you can find us twinpeaksunwrapped.com. And yeah,
we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks. Joel Bacco's journey through Twin Peaks.
That audiobook limits itself to Cooper's time in Twin Peaks, but My Life, My Tapes goes deeper, documenting the triumphs, failures, and spiritual stirrings of the special agent from his early days in Philadelphia. The book is comical and action-packed, but with a dark edge. A particularly illuminating passage describes Cooper's chilling dream. Later, the boy's mother will die, perhaps as a consequence of these nightmares. She returns to her son in a dream, and he awakens to find a ring on his finger. This is the same ring returned to him on the show when he understands Laura's secret. In the book, we learn that Cooper's mother received the ring from her own father and wore it until she was married. The novel's centerpiece unfolds on the gritty streets of Pittsburgh, 1979. We learn the details of the Cooper-Windom-Caroline love triangle. Before killing his wife Caroline, Windom kidnaps and abuses her, while successfully hiding his identity. Cooper, assigned to help Caroline remember, fails to unlock this secret in time to save her. The parallels to Laura Palmer and her unfortunate cousin Maddie are perfectly clear. As a result, Cooper experiences intense fear, anxiety, and despair. The book ends with an entry written February 24th, 1989.
It says here she was the homecoming queen.
bringing us full circle.
Should be on the ground in 30 minutes, which will be about the time I empty my thermos. Although the pilot did mention something about a storm front up ahead.